Well, the Democrats were right again, and it turns out the farmers of Iowa are completely shit out of luck, specifically because they voted for Trump, okay? Because his policies have double fucked them, okay? Starting with USAID. Now, you might say, why would USAID be connected to the farmers of Iowa? Well, turns out that USAID was one of their most reliable customers. We were spending up to $2 billion every year buying soybeans from them and then shipping them overseas to feed poor, starving children. Until our Christian president got in office and he said, "What? We are sending food overseas to feed hungry children? For Christ's sake, shut that down immediately." Well, in doing that, they have now taken away the second largest, most reliable customer for these soybean farmers in Iowa. Now, who was their number one customer? Well, it used to be China. And up until recently, they were buying 60% of our soybean exports out of America. But Daddy Trump came in and jacked up these tariffs, started a trade war with China, and now these soybean farmers have lost their number one customer. So now these soy boys are sitting on a Scrooge McDuck level of soybeans with absolutely nobody to sell them to. And that is why they are begging Daddy Trump for a bailout and for him to cut the shit with China so we can get rid of these tariffs. You know, it's amazing. Trump supporters put him in office hoping that he would just ruin the lives of all the people who they hated. But they didn't realize that Trump isn't on their team. He's on Team Billionaire, not on Team Farmer or Team Trucker or Team Everyday American. He only cares about rich people. Anyway, happy Sunday, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend. Football is back. Hell yeah, very exciting for all of us who are still able to watch it, despite the fact that there are male cheerleaders now. Oh. Anyway, guys, I love you. I'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you soon.
Regarding all these farmers that are now crying about possibly losing their farms because they voted for Trump, this is why you absolutely should not feel bad for any of these farmers that voted for Trump. Now, the ones that didn't vote, yes, feel sorry for them, go support them, do whatever you need to do. But the ones that voted for Trump, do not feel sorry for them, and let me tell you why. I am a builder, and I've been building shit in Oklahoma City going on like 20 years now, and farmers are not stupid. If you have the ability to manage a farm and understand the weather, the climate, your machinery, the chemistry that goes into your crops, you are not a stupid person. You're just not. And especially when you come from generational farming, you have the ability to look ahead and predict what you need to survive. And so when you have two candidates where you have Kamala Harris on one side giving you a whole fucking list of shit that she's going to do for you and make your life better, and then you have Trump on the other side who can't even come out with a normal sounding sentence, and you still vote for that guy, and you are a farmer, you are either racist or sexist or both. And they're only crying now because now they are being treated exactly how they voted for other people to be treated. Got that? They are being treated how they voted for other minorities, people of color, everybody else, poor people, sick people. That's how they voted for other people to be treated. And now they're the ones being treated that way by losing their livelihood, their homes, their income, their farms. So do not feel sorry for them. This is exactly what they had coming. Quick follow-up as to why exactly would Trump be doing this to farmers anyways, and I'm guessing 99% chance it's because he wants to bankrupt farms so his corporate buddies can come in and do a land grab. Basically what you have been seeing the last few years, major companies buying up a bunch of rental houses and jacking up the price of rents, and it's all going to corporations. It's probably something similar to let these farms go to foreclosure and his corporate buddies.
So with all this winning and FAFOing going on, apparently Iowa was feeling left out and felt the need to enter the fray and throw their hat in the ring. Iowa, the state of Iowa, is currently leading the nation in farm bankruptcies in 2025. Evidently, Iowa farmers did not learn their lesson from the first Trump administration and are getting another dose of reality. I guess once bit, twice shy, right? But, I mean, I'm not sure what can be said at this point. Like, you know, this constantly feeling the need to bend over and say, please, sir, I'd like some more. I mean, You guys are beyond help. I don't know. Like, and despite all this, and despite the fact that the state GDP has shrunk by 6%, Governor Kim Reynolds has come out and said, Iowa farmers stand by Donald Trump despite the tariffs. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, if you're going to go down with the ship, go down hard, right? But of course, you know that they're going to be asking for handouts and expecting subsidies, right? Socialist.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're faring well where you are, and if you're not faring well, please fare well where you are. In the long story of American agriculture, white farmers have often been seen as the backbone of rural life. They are owners of large fields, inheritors of family land, and symbols of traditional American strength. You see, but in modern times, especially in this last decade and this time of Trumpism, these white farmers have experienced serious economic pressures from forces which are much bigger than the weather or the soil. One of the most powerful forces shaping their lives has been the tariffs that has been imposed by the president of USA, Donald Trump himself. The tariffs that the government placed, which are also taxes on the imported goods, this has often led to foreign countries placing their own taxes on American exports. Tariffs are meant to protect domestic industries, but they often create a chain reaction that hits farmers in unexpected and painful ways. This is not a big news. It's actually not news, because white farmers have always been complaining of tariffs, and their farming is not being practical as it used to be. So here we have new and fresh news of the challenges again that the white farmers are facing. I want us to listen to it. I shall get back by the end of the video, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September's upon us, harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about a third of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red. And we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs, and we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers, and they're critical.
Yeah, so if we look at, and we're going to divide, so I'll stay with grain and oilseeds because that's what I do day to day, but I just have to say one thing about livestock. For livestock folks, we're in good world for them right now. So I'd love to be able to have as good a world that they're having in GNO, but we just don't. And so there's just so many things, and it's really a supply story this year. When you think about across the globe, we haven't had a year where every country's almost saying all 8 cylinders where we're getting full production. And that's where we are right now. It's also too a bit of a dichotomy in the US is that we're building corn stocks, but the world is not. It's just the opposite in soybeans, where the world's building soy stocks and we're not. And so it's a very weird world, but the fact is we just have so much supply in the world that's just going to keep prices,
Multiple different farmers across the United States are admitting that Donald Trump's tariffs are absolutely crippling them. If this continues, they're going to go bankrupt at rates we've never seen in American history. Listen to them.
Fertilizer and seed and diesel fuel, all of these things have just about tripled in price. And I'm selling my commodity for the same thing I was in the 80s. I've never seen anything like this. And it's all due to the president's tariffs.
And an Arkansas farmer is also pointing out that Donald Trump's tariffs are a direct cause of this, saying we produce 40% more agricultural products in this country than we can consume domestically. 1 in every 4 rows of soybeans goes abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought 0 soybeans and 0 new crop corn out of this country. We went from $12 billion to 0. The price for them doing their business has tripled, and their sales are plummeting drastically because other countries aren't importing our crops anymore. You know it's not good when they're being forced to sell their crops at 1980s prices while paying 2025's cost. The math doesn't add up. They're going to go out of business. Farmers are losing their farms across this country. Generational livelihoods are on the line, and rural communities are collapsing at levels we've never seen before, all because of Donald Trump's tariffs. And these aren't just Democratic talking points. These are words coming directly from the farmers themselves.
Consumer confidence is surging, blue-collar wages are rising rapidly.
Wages are rising, inflation is cooling, and American confidence is surging back.
Real wages, real take-home pay for workers is increasing.
Wages are actually rising faster than inflation for the first time in 40 years under Trump.
You're able to buy more, you're able to do more.
The average worker is up about $1,000. That's a lot in just 5 months.
Real wages increased almost 1% from January through July.
Real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office.
Blue-collar wages are rising faster than they have risen in 60 years.
The only other time it's been this high was during President Trump's first term.
This administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets.
So Donald Trump in the White House would put that video out knowing damn well that we have the second worst job market since 2021. Not only that, but we are dealing with one of the worst economies we have ever dealt with in the history of the United States of America. Blue-collar workers are screaming for assistance right now. Farmers across this country are screaming and begging for federal assistance because not only do they think that they can't make it, they know for a fact that if this market and this economy keep going the way it's going, their children and their children's children will not be able to survive much longer in this setting. Let me know your thoughts and comments over this way because everything that was in that video is an absolute...
I want to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law.
And you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
That's sure. If they got documentation, they got a better job working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992.
Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared,
Smith's pickers make about $100 a day. He supports immigration laws, just not this one that threatens his third generation.
Oh, farmers, you effed around and you're finding out, didn't you? Oh, farmers F around, find out. They are furious with Donald Trump over this Argentinian bailout. What? Yes, they are furious with Donald Trump over the Argentinian bailout and over Donald Trump's trade policies that have got them into a financial crisis. Here is one quote from Polk County, Iowa. They say, "We are facing financial crisis because of avoiding common sense trade policies, and instead we start trade wars with other countries such as China that are buying in the past our soybeans." What? Yes. Well, hello. Donald Trump did this to you all back in his first term. Why do you expect him to be any different? You Do the same thing over and over and you expect a different result. This is what he did and cost you all millions and billions of dollars, and the billions of dollars that he had to bail you out before then, having to do the same thing now. On top of this, he's now sending $40 billion to help bail out Argentinian farmers that are selling their soybeans to China at cheaper prices, and helping his MAGA buddy try to stay in power in Argentina. So our farmers, you effed around, you find out, you did it twice. You know, really, don't you, we're on TikTok, I can't say that. You know what? You get what you pay for, and you bought it. You bought Trump twice, and you got burned twice. What can I say? Love you for my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, burned out light bulbs, my Iowa farmers and all the other farmers. Don't y'all have any common sense? Clearly.
If you have ever driven across the state of Iowa, you may have noticed a very consistent landscape of corn and soybean fields. From Davenport to Council Bluffs and beyond, it's a lot of this. But have you ever wondered why we grow so much of just those two crops? And what the heck farmers are supposed to do when a country like China suddenly stops buying them? The reasoning behind our monocultural surroundings comes down to three things: our soil, our policies, and global demand. Iowa's rich prairie soil and Midwest climate make it perfect for row crops like corn and soy. Iowa's farms used to grow a wider variety of crops, but over time, that diversity disappeared. Why? Because that's not where the money was. U.S. farm policy pushed farmers towards a corn and soybean monoculture, locking it in through subsidies, crop insurance programs, and ethanol mandates that rewarded planting the same crops year after year. Today, nearly 90% of Iowa's farmland is dedicated to just corn and soybeans. Now, this isn't necessarily great for our soil or our environment, but for decades, global demand, especially from China, made it all make sense. China buys huge amounts of soybeans to feed livestock and make things like cooking oil. At one point, they bought a third of all U.S. soy exports. To put it into perspective, in 2024, just last year, China purchased $1.5 billion in Iowa soybeans. This year, China has not purchased a single dollar's worth. Iowa's farmers are currently harvesting soybeans to rot in bins because nobody's buying them. When demand for commodity drops like this, prices, what farmers actually get paid, collapse. Some farmers are now losing money per bushel just to get crops off the field. Thanks to the Trump administration's brilliant tariff idea, China is instead turning to countries like Brazil or Argentina to meet their soybean demands. And the real kicker is that Trump just sent $20 billion to bail out his political allies in Argentina. I'm serious, look that up. Meanwhile, American farmers are on the verge of bankruptcy and praying, literally, for divine intervention. So what's the solution here? Well, places like Iowa need to diversify their crops and offer more than just corn and soybeans, because growing things nobody wants to consume or buy is not helping anybody. Additionally, we could invest in local food processing and food systems to feed people here. 1 in 8 Iowans face hunger. There's no reason anybody living in a state that feeds the world should have to worry about putting food on the table. Additionally, we need to start having thoughtful, productive conversations about the future of farming in Iowa. Farmers are struggling badly, not just financially, but physically and mentally. Multiple studies have shown farmer suicide rates are 2 to 5 times higher than the national average. This is unacceptable. Politicians need to stop using farmers as props for their campaign ads and pawns in global trade wars. Iowa farmers deserve stability, and we all deserve a system that actually works.
The American farmer will figure it out, plant something different, grow a new crop. You just told me you know nothing about farming. There are approximately 100,000 soybean farmers in the United States that planted their crops this year expecting to sell to China. Now China will not be buying their crop. They have nowhere to sell it. So this year's crop is done because they can't just dig up the crop and plant something new. It doesn't fucking work that way. Not just that, there are a lot of states where you can only grow certain things. You can't just grow anything anywhere. It's not how it works. The soil's not the same everywhere. The soil is perfect for soybeans. It might not be perfect for other things. You don't know shit about shit, and they can't just recover from that. They can't just grow something else that easily. Yes, some of them can, but not all of them. Some small farms are going to fucking go under because of Trump's tariffs. 100%.
So that's what we got for American farmers, is zero empathy. We want them to fail. That's what you're saying out there. That's what Americans are saying right now is, well, you know, next time you'll vote the right way, or that's what you get for who you voted for. That, to me, I want to say it doesn't sound very American of people, but here lately, that's all we're doing is complaining. You know, the last thing I want is an American business to fail. I don't know how much more we're going to see for the next 3 or 4 years. Last thing I want is an American farmer to go under because us as Americans didn't want to do anything to support them.
Yeah, fuck them farmers. I don't give a shit about farmers anymore. If you voted for Donald Trump, I do not give a rowdy shit. We voted for you. We voted for you to have your crops as a part of children's lunch. We voted for you to be part of world aid. We voted for you to keep your farms. We voted for Kamala Harris so that you could continue to live, continue to thrive, continue to at least survive. And you went into the voting booth in November and voted against your own best interest. You cut off your nose to spite your face so that you could own the libs. So yeah, does it seem very American? I don't know. What seems American these days? To vote against your own interest and to fuck everyone around you because you thought black and brown people should be beneath you and you wanted to own the libs? Is that what we should be protecting? Because if you're a farmer and you voted for Donald Trump, then you can go fuck yourself sideways. We don't care. My give a damn is busted and we do not care anymore. So don't give me this sob story bullshit about, oh, that's not very nice. How can you be against farmers? If they go down, what's going to happen? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a flying fuck. God, I don't know what else to say to these people. You voted against your own best interest. He told you. Tariffs. He said mass deportations. He said it all. And here you are, bitching and moaning and belly aching because he took away your way of life. When we voted for Kamala Harris to protect you, to help you. You didn't.
Are you angry?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm totally mad. There's no reason for it. This is absolute stupidity. This is a man-made crisis caused by Donald Trump. Period.
John Bartman is a soybean farmer whose family has been working Illinois land since before the Civil War. This year, his crops, diligently planted, meticulously cared for, are losing their value.
This is a yield monitor. This allows me to see instantly what my yield is doing. So this is 4,134. So that's roughly $40,000 worth of soybeans that we have harvested. And a couple years ago, that was easily $60,000. So that's a major change. This is the economics. It's what we do in this country. We export food. And we can't do that right now.
Soybeans are the largest agricultural export from the U.S., valued at more than $24 billion last year, 52% of which was exported to China. But this year, soybean exports to China are down 51% compared with the same time period last year. The drop comes as China stopped buying soybeans from the U.S. and an escalating trade war. President Donald Trump insists farmers will win the trade war. Posting on Truth Social October 1st, we've made so much money on tariffs that we are going to take a small portion of that money and help our farmers. I will never let our farmers down. John Bartman is skeptical.
Bailout's not going to do it. Bailout, unfortunately, we need the money.
Once you lose a customer like China, can you ever get them back?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I need you blue state liberals to stop calling the farmers who voted for their own personal financial ruin stupid. It's infantilizing. They aren't stupid. To actually manage a farm effectively requires insane depths of knowledge in math, science, logistics. These people aren't dumb. But what they are learning, for I think in some cases the first time in their lives, is how expensive racism is. They heard Trump loud and clear when he said that he would deport their labor force and that he would tariff essentially all of the inputs they need to run their facilities. And they absolutely heard him when he claimed over and over again that the US gave too much to the world in aid, and therefore those aid streams, which most often include the food these farmers grow, would be cut. They heard it all. They just didn't believe it. They thought this was just Trump 1.0 and there would be enough adults in the room to say, hey, this is reckless. We can't do this because it will dismantle the economy. Yeah, a lot of farmers were hurt during the first Trump administration. Thanks to his reckless trade wars, particularly with China, a lot of them went bankrupt. And the bailouts that originally happened under Trump's first term didn't mostly even go to these small-scale farmers. It ended up going to big agribusiness. And I have a feeling, if past is prologue, we're gonna see that happen again, if bailouts happen at all. Because the reality is these people do not actually want to save these small-scale farms. People in this admin, like J.D. Vance, very specifically invested in things like AcreTrader. Their goal is for these farmers to go bankrupt so that they can consolidate, buy up huge swaths of their land, and make a fortune. So I'm not gonna lie to you, there is very little incentive for anybody in this administration to actually give these farmers a bailout, no matter how angry and white and male they are. I doubt there are any farmers listening to this at the moment, but the billionaires do not care about you. They actually just want to take your stuff. So even if a bailout does come, and I doubt an effective one will, but if it does, it is going to be meager enough to keep these people in dire financial straits. Because the goal of a lot of these billionaires and investment firms is to make them desperate enough to sell. So you can say goodbye to small-scale family farms, that's for sure. What's kind of funny about this is that Let's Go Brandon tried to bail you out for real. And that's probably the last time anyone will, so.
Never thought I was gonna lose this much money, this fast.
Jim is a Republican who voted for Donald Trump 3 times.
How do you feel about your vote for Donald Trump now?
Well, I feel like perhaps I should have considered some other options.
The past 2 years, Jim has been selling honey to the federal government, which then provides it to schools and food banks. But after Donald Trump took office, the USDA cut those programs suddenly as part of the federal government's effort to streamline spending.
For a lot of other local farmers around here, it was a major source of reliable revenue. For me, it's going to cost me around $150,000 a year.
$150,000?
Yeah, roughly 50% of my revenue.
That's a huge hit.
That's a massive hit.
Yeah, I want to jump on the bandwagon of saying that I regret my vote for Trump. My whole family does. My husband and I own a farm in Ohio that was funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, which Biden signed into law. And now the executive orders from Trump are rolling back all of that funding for us. So now we can no longer afford our farm. And when all that happened, it was like a lightning bolt hit my brain. And I realized that I shouldn't just be voting for myself, that Trump's policies and EOs are hurting millions of people. But it took it affecting me personally to understand what I had done was wrong. And I think it's really important for anyone to come out who voted for him and is now negatively impacted by the executive orders, or maybe you have friends or family, especially in minority communities, who are being very heavily impacted by what's going on right now. So yeah, I think it's time for us to stop being so selfish maybe and to vote for what's best for the country instead of just in our tiny little bubble, because we're all in the same boat now and we're all equally screwed by.
So after carefully watching this video, here is my deep critical analysis. Now, to understand how tariffs affect white farmers in America, we must take a look at the structure of American agriculture. The majority of large-scale commercial farms in the Midwest are growing soybeans, they are growing corn, wheat, and also they are doing livestock, which are owned by these white families, These farms depend heavily on global markets, especially China, Canada, Mexico, and Europe. When the USA imposed tariffs on foreign goods, those countries responded with retaliatory tariffs, often targeting American agricultural products because they know farmers hold political influence. You see, a good example is when the US imposed tariffs on Chinese steel and technological products. China responded by putting heavy tariffs on American soybeans and pork, 2 major export products of white farmers in the Midwest. This retaliation has made American products more expensive abroad and has drove buyers away from US products but towards products from Brazil, Argentina, and other competitors. Suddenly, thousands of white farmers who had relied on predictable export markets found their crops sitting unsold, piling up in storage, and also being sold at loss, far below production cost. This economic hit has spread quickly across rural America. Equipment dealers saw fewer purchases. Fertilizer companies lost customers. Banks became nervous about farm loans. Small towns depended on farming money faced. Small towns dependent on farming money faced declining local businesses. In many communities, tariffs made existing problems even worse. Aging farmers unable to retire, young farmers unable to enter the industry, and families already dealing with drought, floods, or unpredictable climate patterns. This is just to add salt into the wound, because nothing is coming, nothing is forming because of the tariffs, And what makes the situation even more complex is that many white farmers originally supported the political leaders who pushed for tariffs. They believed that the argument for tariffs would protect American jobs and push countries like China to play fair. Some felt a deep loyalty to the promise of economic nationalism, thinking it would bring manufacturing back, secure borders, and strengthen the country. But did it really do that? It did the opposite of the intended. You see, but when the retaliation hits agriculture, many of these farmers are feeling and they get betrayed, Their support for tariffs was built on trust, yet the practical outcomes threatened their financial survival, you see. Still, many farmers did not abandon their political loyalty. Some felt the pain was temporary and part of a larger patriotic sacrifice. Others blamed foreign governments rather than their own leaders. But a growing number began to speak openly about the economic mismatch between trade politics and the realities of farming. They argued that tariffs were designed without consulting actual agricultural experts or rural communities, Later on, they pointed out that farming cannot simply switch markets overnight, and that rebuilding trust with former international buyers can take years, even after tariffs are removed, Government relief packages were introduced to help farmers survive the losses. Billions of dollars in subsidies were handed out, and white farmers received the majority of those payments because they own most of the large-scale farms. But the subsidies are not equal replacement for functioning markets. They keep farmers afloat but do not build sustainable futures. Many rural families felt that they were being paid to endure political decisions rather than being helped towards real economic stability. That's very serious. To continue, the effects of tariffs has also exposed a deeper issue that is happening. We have the vulnerability of the American agricultural sector. Even though white farmers often appear economically powerful, they are trapped in a system shaped by global forces, corporate monopolies in seeds and equipments, unpredictable climate shifts, and political decisions made far away from rural fields. Tariffs did not create this vulnerability. They only revealed it more sharply. And to conclude all in the story of white farmers and tariffs in America, it is not simply about economics. It is about identity, politics, and survival. Tariffs were introduced as a symbol of national strength, yet they often weakened the very communities they claimed to protect. The experiences of white farmers show that rural America needs policies grounded in real knowledge, long-term stability, and respect for the complexities of global trade. Whether these lessons will shape future decisions remain uncertain, but the effects of tariffs have already left a lasting mark on the fields and families across the United States of America's farming heartland. It's sad, and we really feel bad even where we are. Me in Africa right now, I feel bad that even though they are white farmers, their pain is our pain. We are all a human race, and your brother's burden should be your burden, we should be lovers of our own selves, and we should be lovers of our neighbors, So whatever happens, or rather whatever affects the white farmers, in one way or the other, it will also affect us here back in the continent, Yeah, that's it. But we can also have a lesson about be careful what you wish for. You may be digging your grave and you don't know. These people trusted Donald Trump and his policies. They trusted that they would be pulled out of a situation. But did that happen as intended? No, it did not happen as intended. But there's always a learning that happens whenever things fail. And I hope that the white farmers are able to learn from all this. Yes. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one, and stay positive.